Hello and welcome to another lesson on the uses of blockchain. So in this one we are going to cover how blockchain can advance housing. So that's stuff like you buying a house, you renting a house. Mainly it'll be to do with buying, but anything to do with housing and property in general, blockchain can have a huge impact on. The probably the biggest area that people are really concerned with when it comes to blockchain in terms of housing is titles. So a title or a deed, so deeds as they are also called as well, a title or deed, there are, well, a bunch of things. So a title shows who owns the house. So a title shows who owns the house. From there, who, or I should put previous owners as well. So it already provides some basic form of audit trail, but there are several problems with this. One of, or some of the problems are linked to do with the security of it, the security side of it, and it's to do with flawed paperwork, especially if the paperwork is to do with, and the titles are to do with houses where people have lived in there for decades and decades, potentially for like 50, 60 years, then the paperwork can really be really bad. Sometimes it can be almost non-existent in terms of not being able to locate any decent paperwork. You can have forged signatures. So you can have poor paperwork, whether it's due to the technology that was around when the paper was created, whether it was the company or the individual doing the paperwork was just lazy, or whether there's some malicious intent. It helps ensure people keep their homes in case of a financial crash or crisis. You might be thinking, well, obviously I'm going to be able to keep my home because at the end of the day it's my home. But in previous occasions, such as the 2007-2008 financial crash, because certain banks didn't actually have proper records of titles and who owned what, they were trying to foreclose properties down because they just didn't have the proper paperwork. So obviously you can understand it from the bank's perspective. They're just thinking, oh, they made a mistake or there's some sort of forgery or something going on like that. As a result, we need to foreclose it. And from the consumer's point of view, aka us, in the house, we're thinking, well, it's my house, especially if you have legitimately paid for it. You can start getting worried, thinking, especially if you're in a financial crisis, it just makes things worse. So using a blockchain system, you can have full title deed history that is easily accessible. So not just who owns it currently, but who else has owned it, and you don't have to go through a long process of lawyers and other institutions and companies to get all of this information and then make sure it's valid as well, because there'll be an audit trial and you'll be encrypted using cryptography. So whether the house is, let's say, bought today and blockchain implemented, or in 100 years, you know that this will be very secure and very trustworthy. And as you can imagine, with anything on this planet, there's money to be made. So there's money to be made when you have to do a title search, so who actually owns it. money to be made for title insurance. So just in case something is going wrong, the insurance just helps cover this. Insurance. This usually all of the costs regarding titles probably isn't a lot. Or like in the grand scheme of buying a house, it's not that much. It might be something like $3,000 to $5,000. So if you're buying a house that's $3, $4, $500,000 plus, in the grand scheme of things, it's quite minor. But that's fine if you know you want that property. It's great. But what if there's a few properties you're checking and you decide, okay, all of them look good. The only thing will be how good the title deed is and who's owned it previously, etc., etc. It's not practical to be doing this on, let's say, 3, 4, 5, potentially even 10 houses. But using blockchain and an automated system, and that's fully audited, you'll have all of this, so you won't even have to pay necessarily, and you can just do checks could just automatically happen. So imagine if you go onto an estate agent's website, it could automatically have some sort of stamp of approval saying it's validated above X percentage, which you know is good, and then you can see a breakdown if you're interested, saying that this person owned it. Even if they don't show specific details, they could show certain information that just gives you some peace of mind. So you can check this out for all prospective houses. So that is fantastic. Another great thing is if you were to link this with smart contracts, which are basically contracts that are automatically executed when certain conditions are met. That's one of the great things about blockchain, the thing that is getting many people excited. With smart contracts, you could use this for title transfers, and you would want to transfer a title in the event of you selling the house, in the event of, let's say, you passing away and you want it to go to your children or child or maybe your spouse or maybe your friend potentially. So title transfers, and these are usually linked to conditions. And in the case of, let's change color, in the case of buying, the two conditions that you're probably going to have to fill is, has the buyer paid? So whether they're paying or whether they're getting a mortgage and they're paying, has the buyer paid? And has a certain date lapsed? Because at the end of the day, most transactions for homes, they usually occur in a way where you have a grace period, or you have a period where you as a seller can, well, move out, get your stuff. Most houses aren't vacated when they put the house on the market. People are still living there. I've been to look for houses, and you will see that people are living there fully. Their bedrooms are the way that you would expect them to be all year round. There is stuff all over the place, not in a messy way, just in a homely way. So it gives them some grace period, hence why there is some time that is usually given to them. And once these two conditions are met, which they can be automatically done, the buyer paying can be a cryptocurrency. And obviously date is just basic, well, date checking, which is fantastic. And on top of that, you can check. So going beyond titles and deeds, you can check the condition of a property as well, of a property. So as it's being maintained, there have been, let's say, workers doing work on it, and using IoT, aka Internet of Things, when literally every device in your house is wired to the internet. It could be hooked into blockchain. It could be maybe on a monthly, yearly, or whatever time period, be sending information saying that this house is in good condition. And that's especially useful for maybe not buyers but renters. Yeah, especially if you're just renting it for a very short period, maybe some sort of Airbnb like system where they're only staying for a few nights or maybe a few weeks. So you want to ensure that the condition of the property is good for the actual buyer or the renter, but also you as the owner as well. You want to make sure that everyone in there is keeping it in good condition. So that's a great way of tracking that. And blockchain can help with transactions, aka buying and selling a property. And it can help with the money side, so cryptocurrency. It can help with title. It can help with auditing. It can reduce fees. It's more secure. It's on an open digital ledger that's secured by cryptography. So transactions as a part of housing is also affected as well. And actually, I just want to go back up here a second. Something I want to link back to where we was talking about title transfers. So title transfers, and it could be linked to conditions. So one of the conditions it could be linked to is wills. So last wills and testaments. Got a separate video covering how blockchain could affect wills and testaments. So based on what you'll learn in that video, you'll be able to see that when certain conditions are met, all of this could link together. That's what you're going to see a lot of with blockchain, that all of these use cases are going to help all these different industries communicate with each other and just automate the process of whether it's transferring, or whether it's a physical good or it's a title or a digital good, the commodity in between, the security of it, verifying the validity of the individuals and the parties involved. So it's going to provide a lot of security and peace of mind. And that just scrolled up, did not want that. And finally, just to iterate, it provides accurate tracking using blockchain every step of the way. Who was responsible for what? So who owned it? Who did what at any particular time? Whether it's handling deed transfers? Who was responsible for what? Etc. etc. And this allows you to have a audit trail of each party to see if they are trustworthy, because ultimately that's what blockchain at its core is: ensuring the trustworthiness of parties, just making sure people are who they are, they're doing what they say they are, and they've done what they say they've done. So this has been an awesome video on seeing the use cases of blockchain in the housing market, which is a huge and very, very important market. So I think there is a lot that can happen in this industry. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Feel free to go over the video again and check out any concepts that you didn't quite grasp the first time round. And I look forward to seeing you in my next lesson.